From the New England School of Communications at Husson University, this is the Maine Report, the way news should be.
Welcome to the Maine Report, a public affairs show run by the students at the New England School of Communications at Husson University. I'm Ethan Snow. Tourism in Maine, it brings in millions of visitors and generates billions of dollars in revenue into the state's economy every year. Towns on the Maine coast see some of the larger rates of tourism in the state. These towns have to develop and improve infrastructure. Joining me now is Selectman of Blue Hill, Jim Dow. Jim, thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure.
So, first off, how long have you been Selectman of the town of Blue Hill?
Well, this is my third year. I am retired. I come to it from 30 years of land conservation work throughout the state of Maine and throughout the Blue Hill Peninsula. So a lot of what I've done in my professional life is conserve infrastructure, essentially.
And so you mentioned conservation work, and of course, I've known you for a amount of years.
You have.
How much of that work has stemmed from working with the Blue Hill Heritage Trust?
Oh, most of it. Well, half of 15 years or so. Otherwise, I work for the Nature Conservancy and doing land conservation projects throughout the state of Maine, from Aroostook County to York County. Beautiful places that probably weren't recognized for their tourism value until more recently.
So, you've been a selectman for about 3 years now. When you first took office as selectman, was focusing on improving tourism infrastructure a priority? One of your top priorities when entering office?
No, clearly wasn't. Blue Hill and the Blue Hill Peninsula is sort of unusual in that regard. Most of the seasonal visitors are long-term visitors who own property. And only more recently has tourism day trippers, so to speak, been a larger part of the local tourism economy, if you will. Many people who come to Blue Hill and stay in Blue Hill are there to visit Acadia National Park, in part because it's very expensive and hard to find accommodation, particularly this year. Last year it wasn't, in 2020, of course. But in 2019, they set a record for tourism visits. And I'm sure this year they're setting a record. And I know that in our town, a majority, fair to say, of people who visit there, stay in Airbnbs or in the few hotels we have, are primarily there to go to Acadia. Interesting, isn't it? I always try to say, you need to look around at this place because there's so much to offer just on our peninsula.
So what are some? So you've mentioned you want to try to get the seasoners, so to say, to kind of explore the Blue Hill Peninsula a little bit more. What has been done in the town of Blue Hill to try to increase foot traffic and just any sort of traffic in around not only Blue Hill but the Blue Hill Peninsula as well?
Well, we have such an assemblage, I should say, of conservation lands and trails that largely come from the work of the conservation community, particularly the local land trust. As I said before, many of them weren't really valued so much by such a large proportion of visitors and local people until the pandemic, and when everyone needed to get outside. And it's really been a boon to the local residents as well as visitors. I mean, Blue Hill is not set up as a really big-time tourism center. We don't have a lot of restaurants, and because the restaurant business has been really hurt by the pandemic. And we have our fair share, increasingly number. What I'd also say is that, tourism has brought new people to our town and our peninsula. People who come and visit find out they want to stay. I mean, right now, many are staying, and that I have to say, there's good and bad about that. But that's the reality, and from my point of view, it's largely a good reality. The state of Maine is the oldest state in the nation in terms of median age. Blue Hill Peninsula, we're all gray. I mean, we're old, and we need young people. So all of you listening from Husson need to come and work and live in our community because we need you. But many of these people who are visiting as tourists find they're staying, and many of them are youngish people, and that's great.
So it is no secret that since the pandemic has started, there's been a large influx of people coming into the state, buying up what property they can, and staying for which will probably be a long time and quite a few years. Now that a lot of people from out of state have the ability to work from home, what has been done, if anything, to not only kind of prepare the town? Was the town prepared for an influx of new residents, so to say?
No. I mean, we have 25, I can tell you, we have 25 miles of town roads that aren't in great repair. You know, like every other small town on the coast, we try to manage the taxes and defer maintenance, as it turns out. We're working on that. The big issue, of course, is broadband. We don't have consistent service for all homes, and that's an issue that the state is dealing with, and we at a local level and the county level are working on to try to improve that. That is something that people need. I mean, as you know, people are working from home and can work in California. I know a young woman who's 30 years old, is working for a firm in California, has never met any of the people she's working with except on the internet. She's making a great income, and she's living where she wants to live in our town.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more with Jim on holding tourism in a small coastal town. Stay with us.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice. And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
We couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Welcome back to the Maine Report. Our topic today is tourism infrastructure, and our guest is Jim Dow, selectman of the town of Blue Hill. Jim, getting right back into our conversation. So you talked about before the break. We talked a lot about the influx of new residents into the state. You know, what has been, you know, was the town prepared? It really wasn't. So when was their first proposals made in your tenure as selectman to really try to improve the infrastructure around the town?
Well, right away. I mean, the big issue in all small towns is roads. That's what people care about. That's always the problem because it's very expensive. And we commissioned a road engineer to look at all of our roads and tell us what need to be done. These are town roads, not the state highways, and how much it would cost. And it's a big, scary number, how much it would cost to improve the roads. And so we're working on that over time, year by year, making a capital improvement plan. There's another big issue in town about whether to dredge the harbor. It's been an issue that has been raised since 1896. Every 20 or 30 years, people raise it, and right now the Army Corps has done a study, and they would pay for 80% of it, and it would allow boats to come right to the center of the village at a dock we have there. It's a seasonal tidal dock now, but we'll see. It's going to cost several $1 million to do that. You know, that means tax money. That means we have other infrastructure needs. We have a sewer system that's old, and we had a study done on that, which is part of what we've been doing to try to get a sense of the capital needs of the town going forward. And that's another issue that will cost us many millions of dollars. And hopefully there'll be some federal and state money available to help with that sewage treatment plant. It's right on the harbor, and of course we now have this issue that people are aware of, sea level rise, which is very real, and that's an issue.
Now I want to go back real quick to dredging the Blue Hill Harbor. Do you believe that you factor in all the costs or the taxes and all that? Do you believe the upfront cost of dredging the harbor would be worth it in the long run, drawing in more boat traffic from, say, MDI or other spots on the Maine coast?
Do I believe? I think it's a long shot. It would be a great amenity for the town, for the residents of the town, and the Army Corps was willing to do the study and perhaps do the dredging based on commercial fisheries usage, because there are 12 boats in the harbor that have another access point, but there is another pier in South Blue Hill that has 20-something fishing boats. But you have to understand that Blue Hill is at the head of Blue Hill Bay. It's a long way from the major yacht and seasonal boat traffic. We have a wonderful yacht club there. It's well used, but I'm not sure that it would attract a lot of sailing traffic or boat tourism, if you would. So that's a question. And at a town meeting that we will have to talk about this, that'll be the question. Is it worth it? And once we know the numbers of how much the taxpayers are going to have to put in this, which will be upwards of $1 million something that won't go to broadband or roads or something else, that'll be the question we'll have to deal with.
So I want to shift gears a little bit now. So we talked about we talked a little bit about what you along with the other folks in the Blue Hill government has talked about what should be done, what needs to be done. What has there been any local residents, longtime residents, or any new residents that have come to you or others within the Blue Hill government with suggestions about what to do to improve infrastructure?
We always get suggestions. We're the select board. There's 3 of us. We're going to go to 5 next year. So if you want to move to Blue Hill and be a selectman, come and put your name in the hat. I can just tell you there's been a lot of new residents, as we said, and the real estate market's been hot. This one couple moved into town, bought a big house, and called us up the next day and said, "Hey, we've got no good internet here. Go get it for us, would you please?" We go, "Yeah, thank you very much. We would like to do that for you." So we're getting, the roads, as I said, are an issue, but it's the internet really that people who are moving to our town and coastal Maine, that's sort of the issue, as it is for businesses, as well as the labor force. That's the other sort of tourism-related issue in terms of being able to maximize the tourism dollars by having people who will work in these industries, these restaurants and service industries. That's a limitation right now.
Has any other towns locally, so say Blue Hill, out of any other town on the Blue Hill Peninsula, Blue Hill is really, we would say really the biggest, has the most businesses, restaurants, has the biggest inflow of traffic.
It's what's called a service center, really. And
right.
It is for our peninsula. I mean, we have a population of about just under 3,000, that's all. And the whole Blue Hill Peninsula of 7 or 8 towns, depending on how you count, is just under 10. So it's a relatively small population base.
So have you worked with any other, so to say, service center towns similar to Blue Hill? Have you worked with any of them about taking suggestions from them about what they've done to improve infrastructure, or have they taken any of your suggestions for stuff that you've done? Has there been any talks with other towns?
Well, I'll say 2 things about that. One is we're always looking and reading, and we have this Maine Municipal Association that keeps us pretty well informed of what other towns are doing. We look to Bar Harbor a lot to see what they're doing because they are inundated with tourism, and they have all the issues that any tourism town will have, they have had and are having, because there is the issue of capacity when you're talking tourism. How much can a town support? based on its infrastructure and its effect on people living there. But the more interesting part of your answer to your question, is that the 7 towns on the Blue Hill Peninsula are talking together about how to work together to address these common issues. So it's on Bar Harbor, they have got a League of Towns to talk together to address common issues, and we've begun one on the Blue Hill Peninsula amongst our towns to talk about common approaches or joint solutions to common problems, like the internet, like finding people to plow the roads. Imagine that. This year, it's really hard to find people who want to plow the roads in the winter. Big problem.
So one final question before we wrap things up. What has been, so far, what have been some of the more successful improvements that you've made in trying to helping the infrastructure?
This is the best answer. We hired a town administrator who, before, this town has had, since its incorporation in 1789, it's had 3 select people and a road commissioner. And it's sort of left itself behind the times in many ways. And so my first priorities as the selectman, and fortunately the other 2 select people agreed that we needed to hire a town administrator, which we've done, and she's great. But beyond that, the roads, as I've mentioned, the roads are what we've been primarily working on, as well as broadband, sea level rise. We have this whole host of things, and I wish we could say we'd accomplished much, but in town government, it's slow moving. I mean, and big infrastructural changes are slow moving. Planning, raise the money, and these days find someone to do the work. It's really difficult to find people, construction people to do the work. It's a labor problem, it's a supply problem, it's a lot of challenges.
All right, well, Jim, we're just about out of time this afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us.
I have a question. Who's going to win the World Series?
I would say Astros in 7 is what I'm taking.
It's good to be with you, Ethan. I appreciate it.
That wraps up this edition of the Maine Report. I'd like to thank my guest, Jim Dow, for joining us today. I'm Ethan Snow, and thank you for watching.